I know that you're in pain right now, and it doesn't really matter if somebody else thinks that your pain is relevant or not. If it's pain to you, it is pain. And I'm reading the book Julian right now, and it reminds me of the time that a woman, Isabel, came to her. She was a woman of power and prestige and wealth, and she said to her, I have read your teachings on God, and I find them to be true in my heart, but I just need to know. I need to believe them really. I need to talk with you about this. She said, I have every reason to be grateful, and I am. I have a great life. I have a husband that I love. I come and go as I please, but I have no children. I'm childless, and it's not that I'm barren. I've been pregnant 13 times, but I have miscarried every single one of them. And I know their names, and I know how old they would be right now. And I grieve for them. And Julian listened to her and said, let's tell me their names. Let's look at each child. Let's love that child. Let's celebrate that child, and let's give that child to God and let him or her rest in peace. And so they did that. And when Isabel left, she felt healing. She felt wholeness. And Julian was able to do this. This is Julian of Norwich. And she was able to do this because she had gone through some pretty intense grief herself. She lived during the time of the pestilence in the 14th century, the Black Death, the bubonic plague, whatever you want to call it, had lost as a child her father to it, her father that she loved so much. And not only did she experience grief, but she experienced guilt because her caretaker told her, you're not spending enough time with him, you're out playing. And so when her father finally died, she felt intense, not just the grief, but the guilt that maybe she had not prayed enough for her father, and maybe God was angry. And then years later, during the second wave of the pestilence, she lost her husband and her own child, young child. And again, intense grief, you can't even imagine, but also guilt, because at the time her husband came home sick, she was out wandering in the fields. And she felt like if I had only been there, I left him to suffer too long, and I left my daughter for too long. And as the years went by, Julian really wavered between maybe some form of healing and being able to recover from this, to intense waves of grief and intense waves of the guilt that she carried, and feeling like all of this was God's punishment on people. This pestilence was God punishing people. And you know how this is. You have been there yourself. You feel like you're getting better, and then suddenly grief hits you again. And Julian really did not begin to feel any different or any real sense of wholeness and healing until she became ill herself and was just on the verge of death, wavering between life and death. In fact, at one point, her mother tried to shut her eyes, thinking she was dead, and Julian was thinking, she thinks I'm dead. She was seeing a vision of Christ on the cross, actually bleeding, and she would pass through these various states. In one state, she would be looking at his face and seeing the love on his face and experiencing peace and compassion. Then in the next state, she would be experiencing despair and anger and hatred. And then she would pass back into a time where she felt like she was in heaven. She had a vision of herself sitting around a large table, and God himself was walking around, greeting each person, thanking them for what they had endured and how they had remained faithful through it. And then she would go to another state of being where she would have visions of hell and the despair that she experienced there. And she kept going back and forth from one state to another until she began to realize that this is the way of life. This is the way things are. We go from despair and hurt and suffering to times of peace and times of experiencing this love from God. Okay, so we acknowledge that there are times of pain in our lives. There are times of grief. So how do we get through them? What do we do with them? And, the first thing I think we acknowledge is that those times of pain don't come from God. God is all good. Everything that comes to us that is good is from God, and everything that God gives us is good. Julian began to talk about the bad things as coming from the fiend, who we would maybe call Satan or the evil one. And she said, the fiend is everything that opposes what God wants. Everything that opposes God's will comes from the evil one. But really, the evil one is not really strong. We're the ones who give him power. We are the ones who make him strong. When we live in fear or when we live with anxiety, we are giving power to this evil one. But the thing is, God is stronger. God is stronger than the evil one. And Julian discovered that on our own, we're not able to tell evil, get away, get back, but God is the one who makes it possible. It's his love that makes it possible. When she was watching her daughter die, when she knew it was coming, she kept thinking, I am going to have to walk through this pain. When she dies, I cannot bear it. I cannot bear it. And at that point, she felt the voice of God say, I will help you. You can bear it. You can, because I will help you. And after this, and through her visions and through her life, she began to learn that, the pain is going to be there. We can't do anything about that, but somehow we have to be able to accept it and to be able to walk through it. We have to be able to endure it, and knowing that God will give us the strength. We don't deny the pain. We admit it. We say, I am in pain, but I'm enduring it. And this is the way that we overcome evil. And Julian was able to hear God say, be patient. You are going to suffer for a while. Just be patient and know that all will be well. I can make all things well. I will make all things well. You will not be overcome. This morning I read Isaiah 26:3. Isaiah was saying, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you. And that word peace is translated from the word shalom. When we call it peace, but it is so much more than peace. It is wholeness. In fact, in this instance, the word peace comes from shalom, shalom. It's perfect peace. It's the kind of peace that Jesus offers to the person that he heals. It's not just a temporary peace. It's a state of well-being. It's a state of everything is okay. I am enveloped in God's love. It's the kind of peace he gives to the person who he restores, the person who is hated or despised by others. And Jesus says, come and follow me. It's a peace of God has enveloped me. God has loved me, and he is going to see me through whatever comes my way. And this shalom, this wholeness, we acknowledge it's not perfect. It's not a way of saying that I'm not going to have any trouble. It's about saying that God is going to hold me through it. It's about embracing this brokenness that we have and keeping our eyes on God through it, and knowing that God is going to bring new life to us at the end of it. And I am not like a fire ecologist or anything like that, but I have read and I know that forest fires are actually good for the ecosystem, that, the pain of the fire is not pleasant, but because of it, the soil is nurtured and new growth springs up, and it makes the forest healthier in the long run. I have not finished reading I, Julian. It's by Claire Gilbert. By the time you see this video, I will have finished it, and maybe there will be some new insights on the other side of it. But do know that whatever you're going through, it is not a punishment. It is not God turning his back on you in any way. It is just the way of life, and God will see you through it. God will see you through your suffering. Keep looking at him. Keep looking at God and walking towards him. You will get through this. God will make all things well in the end.